Bitcoin ETF. We've talked about it many times before. We've talked about it being confirmed. We've talked about it being canceled. We've talked about it being rejected. But now they say it's finally here. The Bitcoin ETF at long last. According to Twitter, Bloomberg's data team is in the process of adding the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF to the terminal. The ticker will be $BITO. That's right. Bitcoin ETF, a chance for normal people to invest their money easily from the stock market into Bitcoin. I'm being told it's Bitcoin futures this time. With ProShares in the lead, perhaps Valkyrie approved as well. Maybe we'll be seeing as many as 2 or 4 Bitcoin ETFs this time next week. Dan Eve, Bitcoin ETF, finally approved in America. Good for Bitcoin.
Well, I think it's certainly going to accelerate it into launch it into the mainstream news again. Obviously, that people have been waiting for an ETF for years. Some people hated the idea of it because it's kind of it's getting that stamp of approval from the existing yucky financial infrastructure, which nobody likes. But at the same time, it's lending credence to the fact that Bitcoin is a legitimate asset. And so it gives the wider public the ability to invest in something that's Bitcoin related without having the Bitcoin themselves, of course. But that's first baby steps, right? Baby steps is, first of all, they can own a Bitcoin via something else, and then they learn about it. They get their own private keys, and they learn about hodling those private keys with their dear life, and get into the kind of, the general, hatred of the general banking system and fractional reserve lending and all the interesting stuff that you learn about once you've actually, got some Bitcoin in some way. So I think it's positive news. Ultimately, especially for the Bitcoin price, I think it's come at like a pretty kind of good time in between. There's not much FUD been around, major FUD recently. So this kind of ETF is going to give it a bit of a clear run. But I don't know if you can, if you can, are you able to share screen quickly? Because I put a tweet on there and it was from March 2017. I think it was March when the ETF, I was really proud of this one. Actually, it was a meme I did when the ETF almost got given to us. And that was it. It was like the SEC almost letting us have the ETF. And they were like, no, but this time the spell has been broken, it seems. And was it Pomp's newsletter? He leaked it, as it were, or he let people know. I think it's fun. I think it's good news overall, right? I think it's obviously had a bit of a positive effect on price, up 8% today. A couple of K lower than the all-time high. So we could be hitting it pretty soon. There may even be a mysterious weekend pump. Who knows?
Josh Shigala, the title card here says, "Not your keys, not your coins."
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And actually, what I want to sort of bring forth here is that the SEC is there to protect the consumer. Well, what they've done is protect them from massive profits over the last few years. So thanks, SEC. Everyone on Wall Street should give a big thanks to the SEC for protecting them from huge profits. Because, well done. So yeah, I mean, I think it's, I don't know. I kind of feel like these huge instruments, let's put it that way, that really plug into the beast that is the legacy system. It can be also the devil in disguise, because it opens up a lot of manipulation. You're able to naked short, the big players can, to try to suppress the price. There's all sorts of jiggery pokery that can be done that you don't even know about out there, folks. So yeah, I mean, I'm not here to celebrate that sort of stuff. I'm here to celebrate when people in countries that really need Bitcoin start developing and picking up Lightning Network, when places that actually need this stuff start getting the stuff. That's what I'm here to celebrate. All these other guys, these big sort of players. Yeah, it's good for price, But at the end of the day, I really want the normal people to be able to buy Bitcoin, and that's what it's always been about.
I just feel this is another example, like where the guy says, here's your claim and here's my claim. And you see, I drill all the way through here and then I drink your milkshake. We're going to drink them up. This is another way where even professional stock market people are starting to say the Bitcoin price could go to infinity, which Mad Bitcoin said on Twitter long ago. They have a new chart called, I forget what it's called, stock to Momo or something. And it just curves straight upward. It's like just an S curve, but it just keeps going up. And they're like, yeah, this is what it'll be like. All of the wealth of the old system will be sucked into this Bitcoin. And how will it happen? Things like this ETF, things where you can go with your retirement money. You don't have to learn what Coinbase is. You don't have to learn what a private key is. You don't even have to learn what an Ethereum is. You can just buy shares of this Bitcoin ETF thing with your stock market money. And if it goes up, hey, it goes up. It's wonderful for all the normal people, all the stock market people. And again, this is how we get their money. This is how we get their investment is I drink it up. Ben, Ark.
Yeah, I mean, higher price is ultimately good for stability. More liquidity is good for price stability. So then it would make it more useful for people in those poor countries, which is obviously why we're all here, is for Bitcoin to be a free and open source money, intergalactic free and open source money. Anyone can on-ramp onto, and you don't need permission to on-ramp onto it. But these ETFs, they're not really for the likes of us. They're for these retirement funds and these huge investment funds, which can't get exposure to Bitcoin by buying and holding Bitcoin. It needs other on-ramps, which are regulated and SEC approved. So that's why they have to trade these ETFs. I mean, this isn't the ETF we've all been waiting for, a Bitcoin-backed ETF where they buy Bitcoin and they hold Bitcoin, and then people buy shares of the thing in the ETF. This is still, just futures, which you're so when you're buying a share in the ETF, you're getting exposure to Bitcoin futures and actually Bitcoin sat, which they're actually holding. So it's not a full-on Bitcoin ETF, but it's definitely a step towards it, and important for those retirement funds and those big players in the financial markets to onboard into Bitcoin, which they're desperate to do and they want to do, but a lot of them aren't allowed to because they manage such huge funds for good reason. They have to have like regulatory oversight because they're managing people's pensions. But then in saying that, I suppose, look at 2008, they managed to screw it anyway. So yeah, it's good. It's good for those people to be able to on-ramp onto Bitcoin. It doesn't really matter for us because we can just buy Bitcoin and then hold our own keys, which is obviously the preferable way to do it. And I think ultimately it's also good for price because it's more liquidity, more stability, more investment, more exposure. And this is all at the time as well. A week ago where Bank of America gave a big green flag for Bitcoin and said it's going to be an important part of the future financial system. So yeah, very bullish, very good news.
I agree with Ben. This isn't the Bitcoin ETF that everyone wants, but we do have to put it on a sliding scale. I think it was just last week we were talking about a faux Bitcoin ETF that was really made up of companies that were into Bitcoin, blockchain companies, mining companies, companies that hold Bitcoin. We were like, that's pretty close, right? Stock market people, you could speculate with that. Now we're getting Bitcoin futures, which is good, but not great. And then eventually, yeah, hopefully we'll get that real Bitcoin ETF where they actually hold it. Hopefully the ETF will have to buy it, and this will affect the market. So this ETF should have to buy it too, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the exit question. As Ben said, we've had so much great news about Bitcoin. Bank of America being in favor of it, JP Morgan, Diamond, that guy, all into it as well. Everyone into Bitcoin, and now an ETF. Is this the part where they stop fighting us and they stop laughing at us and they start joining us? Dan, Eve, have we conquered the mainstream financial world?
No, not yet. Not until like until they, the banks start pulling a Tesla and being like, yo, we've got like 5 billion of Bitcoin on the books, and they come out of the Bitcoin closet. But I think very good point about the exposure for pension funds, because that a lot of people have got money locked up in a pension and they can't do anything with it, and they can dump it in, like they can keep it in cash, which is obviously a ludicrous idea because cash is crap, and or now they have the choice to actually put it into a Bitcoin ETF if their pension provider allows them to have that ETF. So I think that's a very good thing, but yeah, not big, not mainstream, like, and unfortunately I think it's not proper like mainstream until the banks actually say, and then it's going to be like one of those but yeah, we could see that coming moments.
Josh Segala, have we conquered mainstream finance?
Nah, long way from it. But definitely, so Bitcoin is like the gold, but I think DeFi is definitely taking on a big chunk. Like the stuff that's coming out of the space is really amazing. And like I mentioned it a few shows ago, but Coinbase daring to offer 4% is really scaring the SEC, because they know that there'll be a kind of a run on the banks. If everyone pulls their money out of the banks and puts it into Coinbase because they get 4% instead of 0.1%, then it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do that? And it's effectively a bank run, and they're already having liquidity crunches in the background. We just don't know it yet, but it's quite frightening for them. And if you think sex is good, try fucking the system.